All right. So that's why you see the tutorials that you see up on top. Over on the left-hand side, I do have my office phone, my office hours, but basically on Mondays, I have office hours before and after this class. And then every other day of the week, they're from 12 to 1. I also have online hours that I'm going to start next week. They're Sunday night from 8 to 9. A little earlier than I've done in the past, because when I do them from 9 to 10, I have trouble going to sleep. So I thought, okay, I'll move them a little bit earlier, and then maybe I can go to sleep at a reasonable hour. Up at the top, I do have links to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all of our CIT accounts. On Facebook, all of our social media, we do post job openings, events, internships, all that kind of stuff. The news and announcements, you guys will see periodic announcements for me. They usually come through your email. Okay, and like I said, pretty much before every class, I am going to start up Zoom, and then I will send out an announcement for that. So if you are home for whatever reason, you're sick, roads are bad, you can still attend. Okay. And I actually have taught classes like this before, so I'm pretty good at managing managing Zoom while I'm teaching. Up at the top, this form for student questions and answers, this is for you guys to ask me questions or each other questions. I don't always get notifications from this, so if you are having a problem, it's probably a better idea to email me, because that way I will see it and I will respond. In our classes, the 200 levels especially, we do have professional development and social networking as part of your grade. So in the past, we have required 100 points, which is 10% of your grade. And we have changed it to 50, which is only 5% of the grade. And it does not matter if you do professional development or social networking, you can do either one. And in this class, because you guys are going to be using Bootstrap, and you are going to spend some time going through it on your own, because all Bootstrap is, it's a framework for CSS, and it uses classes. And you all know how to use CSS, and you all know how to use classes. So for me to go through everything with you for Bootstrap is kind of silly, because it's something that you guys can do on your own. And you can count that as a PD activity. You just need to keep track of how many hours you spend on it. So, you know, if you spend 5 or 6 hours on it, throw it into a Dropbox, and you're pretty much done with your PD activities. Okay? So I tried to make this very painless for you all. And then for week 1, we are going to go through our syllabus and our schedule, because I think most of you guys know each other, and I know you all don't really like ice-breaking activities. We're going to kind of forgo that this week. I do have something I am going to bring into class for team building. One week when we have, our agenda isn't very full, I'll bring it in. It's called an escape box. It's kind of like an escape room, but there's locks, and you guys will have to figure out what the combos are. So it's actually super fun. The faculty did this in an activity, and my team almost won. So I'm super competitive, but it was fun. Okay, so I thought, oh, we're going to bring this into our class. So they loosened up the purse strings and gave us money to buy the boxes for our escape box. So I will bring that in, because it's kind of a fun thing to do. And let's see. As far as the lecture demo goes, we're just going to talk a little bit about the programming environment you're going to be working in. And that does involve some software programs that I'm going to show you. As far as the student profile, you are going to want to go ahead and do that. And if you don't know everybody in class, this will be a way to learn people's faces and names. So basically, you just go in here, you're going to hit add. For the concept, you're going to key in your name, and then you're going to want to add a picture of yourself. And, you know, if you have hashtags that describe you, that's great. And then maybe a sentence or two, you know, that you want to share with people. So this is my granddaughter. She's 4 months old, super fun. And obviously we took this at Christmas because yes, I do have a Christmas outfit that I wear at Christmas. So complete with red pants. It's the only time I wear them. This is Leighton. And so anyway, my hashtags are not a morning person because I am not a morning person. And failure is not an option. And for me, what that means is I will throw as much time at something as I need to for it to be successful. Okay, so, and then I have tons of interests and hobbies, but I just don't have enough time to do all of them. So I don't know if I'll ever have enough time to do all of them, but anyway, so that kind of tells you something about me. And then if you guys want to share about yourselves, then in our class, these are set up to randomly display. And so where they will display is right over here. So each time you come in, you're going to see a different classmate. Okay? And because we have some people coming in remotely, that's a way for you to get to know them too. Okay? Then after that, there is a discussion forum. Okay? And this is where you introduce yourself, and you get points for this too. So, you know, what your name is, a nickname, interests, what your, I mean, most of you guys are CIT developer majors, but if you have, you know, a different major, put all of that information in, and anything else that you want to share with people. I tend to overshare. You do not need to put in as much as I did, but I thought, well, I'll tell you what my background is, rather than, you know, talking about it up here, which is kind of boring. Y'all can read what my background is. And then if you have questions, you feel free to ask, okay? So anyway, you guys, most people do like a paragraph. So I do overshare. You do not have to write this much. Okay, and let's see, after that, we will get into what the lab assignment is, because that is going to involve using Bootstrap. So, our syllabus. So, office hours are on here, just in case you forget. If you guys want to print out the syllabus, you can. I used to print them out, hand them out, and then after class, half of them would be left in the classroom, so I thought it was a big waste of paper. So I don't print them out anymore, but if you guys want to, that's awesome. Okay. We got our course description. The books that we're going to use in here are free. Okay. And so I think at the bottom it shows where I got them from, but there is a website, IT eBooks. And that is where I got them from. And the Bootstrap one I actually got from Tutorials Point, but I think it was posted at IT eBooks. As far as accessories go, you may want a USB drive in here, and I will show you why when we get into the software. Because one of the software options you can install on your home computer, take the entire folder and copy it to USB and run it off of your USB. Okay, so yeah, there's a couple different pieces of software you can use. I'm actually really liking the one that runs off the USB. It's super easy to use. Okay, so I will show you both of those, and then you guys can decide, because it doesn't matter to me which environment you pick. As far as the software goes, we have Laragon, and this is the environment that can run off of a USB. Okay. We also have something called Dev Server. And in our course, I do have links to both. And in this room, we have Dev Server. Okay? And I will show you how to use both. And if you prefer Laragon, it's not a problem. Okay? Just throw it on your USB and you can use it. Okay? So you can use either one. VS Code, y'all should have VS Code. We are going to use that. And then to transfer our pages, we're going to use FileZilla. So you're going to have the same accounts that you used before. If you don't remember, because for some of you it has been a while since you've had me, so if you do not remember what your username and password are, I printed all that information out so I can come around and tell you. And for those of you who have not FTP'd, I think there's one person, I did create an account for this individual, and I will show them how to do this.
It will be the same thing again?
Exact same thing. Yep. Yep. I'll show you, there is a problem with server side though, because you cannot, the only way you can test it is in the test environment. Because server side stuff does not show you errors when you run it live. Okay, so yeah, it's a little different environment to work in. So here's the PHP book, and then here's the Bootstrap 4 book. So you're probably going to want to download those and save them. Okay, and then these are links to all of the software that you need. And then here is the Dev Server link. Dev Server is in this classroom. Okay. And then other things in the syllabus, obviously we've got our learning outcomes, which I'm not going to read to you because they are kind of boring, but basically by the end of the semester, everything that's listed as a learning outcome, those are things that you will know by the end of the semester. As far as grading goes, we have 1,000 points. And the reason I pick 1,000 is because it's super easy to do the math when it gets to percentages. So if you want a 4.0, it's 95 to 100%. That's 950 to 1,000 points. What happens if you're at 949 points? If you guys are within a couple points of a 4.0, I'm going to give you the 4.0. Okay. So, you know, if you're down at 940, then you're not close enough. Okay, but I do quite a bit of extra credit. Plus, just like my other classes, if you do have an error, I let you fix it and resubmit it. Okay, so you can get those points back. That's important in computer classes because fixing errors is part of how you learn. Okay, so this is our grade scale. And this is the one that has been adopted by CIT and the business division. And then this just basically goes through what the chapters and lectures are, assignments. We do have a final project in here. It will involve a CRUD application. So when you get to the point where you've created the online database and you know PHP, we are going to be creating pages that will retrieve data from the database and display it. You will be updating data. You will be adding rows to tables, and you will also be deleting rows from tables. Okay, so it'll be kind of a fully functional site. Okay, you're also going to learn how to create an authentication page, so like a little portal to your site where they have to log in and authenticate before they can get in. You will be learning how to pull data from your database and generate an XML file, and pull data from the database and generate a JSON page. Okay, just like companies do it. Okay, that'll all be part of the final project. But when we get into, I think it's around week 10, you will notice that the assignments build towards the final project. So the assignments that you're going to be creating end up being part of the final project. Okay, so as we go through the end of the semester and you complete assignments, you are completing your final project. Okay, so we're double dipping, basically. That's what that means. Okay, so the final project, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, it's huge. You know, how am I going to get all this done? It's not going to be a problem, okay, because you're going to get it done. We're going to do like a menu system and the add and delete pages first and the retrieval, because those are easy. Updates are harder. So after we do the easy stuff, we spend a week on updates. And I have a ton of code examples. And there are a lot of code examples in the book. The ones in the book have errors. I have gone through and fixed all of the errors. So I will give you downloads for the chapters in the books. Okay, and then there's zip files, you can unzip them, and then all of the examples from the book will work. Okay, so for those of you who, you know, you download the book and you go to the website, you're thinking, ooh, I'm going to get all this code. Don't do it, because a lot of those examples don't work. There's errors. Okay, so I don't expect you to fix the textbook errors. I fixed them, but that's probably part of the reason the textbook was free. So it is a good book otherwise. Let's see. At the end of the semester, we will be sharing our projects, just like we do in all the other classes. And let's see, in this class, we have a couple exams. There's a midterm and a final. Each one is 50 points. You do not have a certification exam in here. So you do not need to worry about that. And then, yeah, I know you're like, whoo, yay. And the midterm and the final are open book, open note. No time limit. Okay. So I tried to make it non-stressful testing. Okay. So any questions about what you're going to get points for? Okay, and as far as communicating, obviously for in class, we'll communicate directly, but a lot of you guys like to work outside of class, and I do check email pretty much every day. So I'm also online on the weekends. If I am going to be out of town, which doesn't happen very often, I will post a message, and then usually I do still have access to email. Let's see. So in this class, if you fall more than 3 weeks behind, which I would say is not possible if you're attending class, because we will be working on things in class. Okay, so if you're attending class, working on the assignments, you're not going to get behind. So it's basically only if you stop attending, you don't attend remotely, okay, and you don't do anything. Okay. So if that is the situation, I'll email you, because we do automatically withdraw students who stop attending. It is better to withdraw than it is to get a failing grade, because a withdraw does not go into your GPA calculation, whereas a failing grade does. Okay. So usually I would say always, I email people to let them know that they haven't attended, and I'm, going to auto withdraw them. And then if they want to catch up, they usually email me back. And then they catch up and all is good. Okay. So as far as the software goes, we already talked about that. And if you guys put Laragon on a jump drive, you can pretty much use whatever computer you want. Otherwise, the computers in this building and then the business pod over in Osterlin would have the dev server on them. Okay, it's not going to have Laragon. Okay, I didn't discover Laragon until last semester, and actually it was a student who told me about it. A student actually attending remotely told me about it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. We'll start using this. So I figured I'd give you guys an option. Okay, options are good. I will show you because it's the environment that you have to test your pages in. So it's got an Apache server, okay, which is a web server. Dev server has the same software. So it comes with an Apache server. Yep. And it comes with PHP. And so, and they all come with MySQL. Okay, so it's just your environment you're going to test in. Okay, so any questions about the syllabus? Okay. And the schedule. The schedule is something you guys are probably going to want to print off, unless you're pretty organized, because as you complete the lab assignments, then you can kind of cross them off. If you're pretty organized, then no need to do that, but some students do find it helpful, especially like next week we have a lab assignment and we have a discussion. So, you know, if you're worried that you're not going to be able to remember everything, you can print it off. You'll notice that things are due by Monday night, the following Monday night. Okay, so today is the 13th. Nothing is due until a week from today, right before midnight. And that does allow you guys to get some help if you run into trouble. Okay. So we've got everything pretty much laid out. If we have a snow day, what I will do is broadcast the class live from home. Okay. And so I'll record it and I'll send you all an invite. You know, if you want to attend, awesome. And if you don't, there's a recording for you guys to watch. That way, we aren't going to fall behind schedule. Because if we fall behind schedule, then we end up cramming. And I don't like to do that. That's kind of stressful for you guys. More stressful for you than me. So I would rather take everything at a reasonable pace. Because last year, there was a lot of snow days on Monday and Wednesday. So I just started broadcasting live, and that way everything was good. And for the students who attended, I actually gave them some extra credit for attending class on a snow day. So, and the ones who didn't attend could still watch the video. You guys have any questions about the schedule? At the end of class, I will leave time for the campus safety video. So for those of you who have seen it, I will let you leave. And for those of you who haven't seen it, we will play it. If all of you leave, then we'll just end up ending class a little early. And that brings us to the lecture demo. So basically all this is it's talking about the environment that we are going to be working in. So we are using an Apache server. It's a type of web server. And in order for us to launch our pages locally, Apache has to be up and running. Okay. For our relational database, we are using MySQL. The commands that you learned in, for the commands that you learned in 178, they're all the same. The only differences that you're going to notice are the data types are a little bit different in MySQL. And the extensions, the SQL Server extensions, okay, extensions are not part of the standard language. So those are not in MySQL. Okay, so if you guys remember with rollup, with cube, those are extensions. Okay, so they're not in MySQL. But everything else that you learned in the 178 class applies to MySQL. So how you create a database, how you create tables, okay, how you insert data, how you update data. All of that is the same. Okay, so everything that you learned in that class, you're pretty much going to apply to this one. So PHP is a programming language, and it, as you can see, as far as server-side programming goes, it is widely used. And that is because WordPress is widely used, and WordPress is written in PHP. So anybody who wants to customize WordPress has to know PHP, okay? And you can see these other languages, and this is recent. I just got this within the last month, okay? So these are current statistics, and you can see where I retrieved this from. It's actually kind of interesting because not only does it go through server side, it'll go through client side, so you can kind of see, you know, how different languages are being used on the web. Historically, this shows you a breakdown of how it was used and how these other languages were used. Okay. And as far as versions of PHP, the current version, I believe, is 7. And the language is backward compatible. So a lot of these examples were written in version 5, but they work in version 7. Okay, so it's not like some of the other languages where the new version breaks the old one. That does not happen with PHP. Okay, so any old code you should be able to run in addition to anything that's new. Boy, I don't know. It's been around a long time. It's open source, so yeah, I would guess it is a group. PHP.net might be able to tell us. I don't know if it'll get into history. Most people don't want to know history. The history of the language. Let me see. Well, yeah, I don't even know if it tells that here, but this is the PHP website. I would think somewhere here they would tell us who originally started the language. It's been around literally forever.
I never understood, like, when they make free languages like this, like, some look like, where's the money? You know what I mean? Like, is it all donated time?
Yeah, I don't know how that works either. So Firefox is another one it's got a community that is contributing to the code.
Yeah, like, they're not getting paid.
They're not getting paid, but I would guess some companies encourage their employees to contribute.
Yeah. They get paid in Fire and Foxes.
Yeah, so I mean, you definitely, like, if you were a coder looking for a job, getting involved in something like this would give you great networking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And saying that you have something that's, like, in, you know, the system, like in the language or
Yeah.
that you made.
Yeah, I mean, and then not just that, but you'd be meeting people in the field who are working who could perhaps get you a job. So, you know. We talked about the software for the course, and so this is just kind of reviewing what that is. The testing environment. So this is probably the thing that confuses people the most. So I'm going to launch Laragon, and then I'm going to launch the dev server so you guys can see what those two look like. And they're both testing environments for PHP. It does not matter which one you use. And you can use them interchangeably, like I have both, okay? And so let me see my jump drive, hopefully. I don't see it. I plugged it in back there. Oh, I'll have to re-plug it in. there it is. Okay, so I installed Lairgun. I did not install the mobile version. I did the full version, and I installed it on my laptop. And then the directions at the site say to take the folder, which is on your C drive, and they actually say to move it onto a USB. I didn't move it, I just copied it. Okay, and so then you can run it by opening it and double clicking on the executable. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, if you like little elephants, then. Okay, so this is the interface. And yeah, so when you do this, you are going to want to make sure that you have everything installed. Let's see. And I do have instructions on how to do that. Let's see if I can find it. So if you go to Tools, and I right-clicked to get the menu, Quick Add, you can actually install all of this, and we are using Apache, phpMyAdmin, PHP, and MySQL. Okay, and so all you do is left-click, and it automatically downloads and installs for you. So it's pretty easy to get everything installed. Okay, and then you can just hit Start All. Now, the only problem I ran into running this off the USB is this is initially set up to use port 80, okay? And because I'm teaching the web app class, Windows IIS uses port 80. So there was a port conflict. So it was super easy to resolve that. So now that I resolved the problem, okay, you can see that it's not using port 80 anymore. I changed 80 to 8000. And now I don't have a port conflict anymore. Okay, so I'm going to allow access. And let's see. Reload. Maybe it's, I hope I don't have a port conflict again. I'd have to change it to something else. The way I changed it is I went down to Apache, and it was this httpd configure file, right? It said listen 80. I changed it to 8000, and I might have to change it to something else to get it to work in here. I know, it's crazy. But this is super easy to use because you set it up so that it looks for your directory when you hit web. So if I set this up, and it's not actually going to work now because it's showing 8000 instead of 80, but you basically set it up to use your directory, and I put the directory right on the jump drive. So when I hit web, it goes right to that directory, and I can open my pages and test them. Yep. So since this won't launch, and I'll have to figure out what works in here, we can use the dev server. And the dev server, you'd want to right-click, it looks like an E, run it as administrator. And then this is the problem with dev server. Now, I never have a problem at home, okay? I'll say that. I have a problem here. So normally at home, I open the dashboard and it's good. Goes right to the dashboard, okay? Here, it does not always do that. Okay, so the one time I tell you it doesn't always do that, it actually opened at the dashboard. But I've had a problem getting it to do that here. Yeah, so I'm going to start the HTTP server. And I'll start the database server. And the only thing that I don't like about this is that every time you come in here, because we have deep freeze, you have to basically add the directory that you want it to go to. It's a little easier to do this on a jump drive. And I think, what did my drive letter? It was like an E. Let's see where that is. I know. Okay, so it's E. I try to keep this as generic as possible. And then you have to give it a path. And so once I have done that, then I can click on this. And this is my jump drive. So then I can go into assignments. And okay, this is the page you guys are going to be creating, something similar. And then I can actually bring up the work. Because this is server side, this is the only place you're going to see errors. You have to pull your pages up in this environment to see an error. And the error will tell you the line number that the problem is on. And sometimes the line number might be above it or below it. Like if you're missing a semicolon, that's a problem above the line, okay? But it gives you an idea of the location for the error. And so you guys are going to have to pull up your pages in this environment. Now, do you have to go through an assignment menu when you're testing? No. I mean, I can open up any of these folders and I can pull up the pages. And these are all formatted in Bootstrap. So you guys are going to be learning Bootstrap and applying the formatting that way. Yep, so here's the simple math one. Again, this is Bootstrap. Yep, and if there are errors, it will show you the error. And so just to give you an idea, because I've had a lot of students, they don't want to mess with the testing environment. So they just throw things up on the server and then they enter done. And their page doesn't display. I'm like, you got an error. They're like, well, I don't know what it is. I'm like, that's because you didn't open it in the testing environment. I don't know what it is either. So this is why, and there's instructions in here for those of you who want to use Laragon. But this is why it's so important to pull it up in the testing environment, because in the testing environment, this is what an error would look like. Okay, so it's actually saying the error's on line 21. Okay, if I pull that same page up live, this is what I get. The page isn't working. Okay, so if you guys put your assignments up like that and just tell me the page isn't working, I mean, yeah, there's nothing I can do because I can't see what the error is either.
So it's not like HTML where it just ignores it if it doesn't like it?
No, and the other weird thing about the server side, let me see, I'll have to bring up a live one so you guys can see. Okay. You can't see the code. Let's see.
It's like when you right click on the page.
Yeah, you can see, yeah, you cannot see any of the PHP code. You can see what it executed to. So it's really different. Let's see. Well, it's all server side. I was going to say all server side is like this. So I guess I don't feel bad showing you guys where this directory is because you can't get to the PHP code this way. So here's the data types, right? So if I right click, this is the live page. Let's see, view page source. So this is what you see, but you do not see any of the code. It's a slideshow. So this, all this class stuff, you can see the Bootstrap stuff, okay? But you cannot see any of the PHP. Okay, because the PHP code for this is right in here and you can't see it. So you basically see the end result, what is executed. Yeah, so here's the math one. Let's see. Yeah, this is a super simple example. Okay, so this is actually where the PHP code is, and there are math equations in PHP, and what you're seeing is the result. You don't see any of the PHP. Okay, so for testing purposes, you have to open it in the test environment to know if it's working or not. Does that make sense? Okay, and just keeping it, if you use dev server, just keeping it super simple. And I think the easiest way to use dev server is to bring in a jump drive, to be honest, because all you have to do is the drive letter and then make that, you know, the name and the path, and then you can just click on it. Okay, if you try to put things on the Q drive, then you get a little bit more convoluted because you got to include all of those Microsoft folders, and it's easier to get the path wrong. Okay, but if you don't have a jump drive and you have to use the Microsoft folders, it's not a problem. I can come help you. We can figure it out. I'm pretty good at figuring out the path, but like I said, easiest thing is a jump drive. Okay, so you guys have any questions?
Unless I missed something.
You did, but I recorded it, so.
I feel really bad. I was 100% sure my classes, there always are Tuesday, Thursday. And I was like, all right, today I'm gonna get my snow tires on. I'm gonna be ready for class. So I already missed
So it's a whoops.
one class, right, the first time. I was late for the first time ever.
Okay, so
Not exactly great.
I am recording. I'm going to stop.